Chapter 6. Shadows in the Speakeasy, New Orleans, July 1925. The Speakeasy on St. Claude Avenue was a hidden gem, tucked behind a butcher shop with a rusted sign that read closed. To the uninitiated, it was just another shuttered storefront in a city full of them. But Julien Dubois knew better. He rapped on the door in a coded rhythm, 3 quick knocks, a pause, 2 more, and waited as the peephole slid open, a pair of suspicious eyes peering out before the door creaked open. The air inside was thick with cigarette smoke and the sharp tang of bootleg gin, the low hum of conversation punctuated by the wail of a clarinet from a jazz trio in the corner. It was past midnight, but in New Orleans, the night was just getting started. Julien led Celeste inside, his hand brushing the small of her back as they navigated the dimly lit room. The speakeasy was a patchwork of mismatched tables and chairs, the walls plastered with faded posters of vaudeville acts and Mardi Gras parades. Men in suspenders and women in beaded dresses crowded the space, their laughter a brittle shield against the city's growing unease. Julien felt the weight of their stares as he passed, some curious, others wary, but he ignored them, his focus on finding a quiet corner where he and Celeste could talk without being overheard. At 35, Julien was used to places like this, the underbelly of New Orleans where secrets were traded as easily as drinks. But tonight, he felt out of place, the events at Victor Leroux's mansion still clawing at his mind. The man's predatory smile, the way his eyes had lingered on Celeste, the hint of fangs Julien wasn't sure he'd imagined, it all churned in his gut, mixing with Mama Zora's warnings about blood drinkers and rituals. He brushed the rosary in his pocket, a reflex that offered little comfort now, his Catholic faith warring with the supernatural reality he could no longer deny. Celeste slid into a booth in the back, her black gown catching the faint glow of a nearby lantern, her auburn hair slightly disheveled from their hasty exit from Esplanade Avenue. At 28, she was a storm in human form, her green eyes bright with determination despite the danger they'd just faced. She set her purse on the table, the small derringer inside a silent reminder of her readiness, and pulled out her notepad, flipping to the page where she'd sketched the crescent moon symbol. "We need to talk about Leroux," she said, her voice low, meant for Julien alone. "He knows something, more than he's letting on." That reaction to the photograph wasn't nothing. Julien sat across from her, his dark eyes scanning the room before settling on her. "He's more than involved," he said, his Creole accent thickening with the weight of his thoughts. "He's part of it, Celeste. I don't know if he's the killer, but he's tied to these vampires, maybe one of them. You saw how he moved, how he looked at you. Like you were." He trailed off, his jaw tightening, unwilling to finish the thought. Celeste's lips pressed into a thin line, her fingers tightening on her pencil. "Like I was dinner?" she finished, her tone sharp but tinged with unease. She'd felt it too, the hunger in Leroux's gaze, the way the air had seemed to thicken around him. But she wasn't about to let fear stop her. "We need more than suspicion, Julien. We need proof. If Leroux's a vampire, or working with them, we need to find out what that ritual is, and who they're targeting." Julien nodded, his hand brushing the rosary again, more out of habit than faith. "Mama Zora said they need a sacrifice, someone tied to the old magic. I don't know what that means, but it's got me thinking about my past, that spirit girl I saw when I was a kid. If I'm connected somehow." He stopped, his voice catching, the memory of the hollow-eyed girl in the bayou rising like a specter. He'd never told anyone about her, not even his sister, but with Celeste the words came easier, a confession he hadn't meant to make. Celeste's expression softened, her hand reaching across the table to brush his. "You're not alone in this, Julien," she said, her voice quieter now, a rare vulnerability breaking through her usual bravado. "Whatever that spirit means, we'll figure it out together. But we need to keep moving forward. Leroux's our best lead, maybe the only one." Before Julien could respond, a familiar voice cut through the speakeasy's din, bright and melodic, with a hint of mischief. "Julien Dubois, as I live and breathe. You bringin' a lady to my stompin' grounds now." Eloise Dubois stepped into the lantern's glow, her presence a burst of light in the smoky haze. At 25, Julien's younger sister was a vision, her dark hair cropped in a flapper's bob, her red dress clinging to her curves, a string of beads swinging as she moved. She was a jazz singer, a rising star in the city's underworld, but Julien knew the cost of her fame. The men she entertained, the secrets she kept, the danger she courted every night. "Eloise," Julien said, his tone a mix of relief and irritation as he stood to greet her. "What are you doing here? Thought you were singin' at the Blue Note tonight." Eloise grinned, sliding into the booth beside him, her perfume, a mix of jasmine and gin filling the air. But I heard about the mess at LaRue's place. Word travels fast in this city, big brother. Figured I'd find you here, broodin' like always. Her gaze shifted to Celeste, her grin widening. And who's this? You finally got a girl who can keep up with you. Celeste smirked, extending a hand. Celeste Moreau times Picayune. I'm working with Julian on the murders. And you're? Eloise Dubois, the best voice in New Orleans, Eloise said, shaking Celeste's hand with a theatrical flourish. And Julian's baby sister, though he likes to pretend I'm still 10 years old, she nudged Julian, who rolled his eyes but couldn't hide the flicker of a smile. Eloise, this ain't a game, Julian said, his voice gruff. There's a killer out there, maybe more than one. You need to be careful, especially if you're runnin' with LaRue's crowd. Eloise's grin faded, her expression turning serious as she leaned in, her voice dropping to a whisper. That's why I came looking for you, Julian. I heard something tonight, at the Blue Note. One of LaRue's men was there, bragged Jin about a ritual going down soon, said they needed fresh blood, and a marked one. I didn't think much of it, till I heard about the murder at his party. You think it's connected? Julian's blood ran cold, his hand tightening on the table. A marked one, he repeated, the words echoing Mama Zora's warning about a sacrifice tied to the old magic. He glanced at Celeste, whose green eyes were wide with the same realization. Did he say anything else? A place, a time? Eloise shook her head, her beads clicking softly. Not much, but he mentioned a warehouse on the riverfront, said it's where they prepare. I don't know what that means, but it didn't sound good. Celeste scribbled the information in her notepad, her pencil moving fast. The riverfront, she murmured. That's a start. We need to check it out, Julian, tonight, before they move whatever they're hiding. Julian hesitated, his protective instincts warring with the urgency of the lead. He didn't want to drag Eloise or Celeste any deeper into this, but he knew they didn't have a choice. All right, he said finally, his voice gruff. But you're staying out of this, Eloise. Go home, lock your doors, and don't go near LaRue's people till this is over. Eloise pouted, but the fear in her eyes betrayed her bravado. Fine, she said, standing to leave. But you better come back in one piece, Julian. I ain't ready to sing at your funeral. She kissed his cheek, then gave Celeste a nod. Keep him in line, will you? Celeste smiled, a real smile this time, not her usual smirk. I'll do my best, she said, watching as Eloise disappeared into the crowd, her red dress a flash of color against the smoky haze. Julian turned back to Celeste, his expression grim. The riverfront's dangerous this time of night, he said, his voice low. We go in quiet and we stick together. No heroics, you hear me? Celeste nodded, her hand brushing his again, a silent promise. No heroics, she agreed, though the glint in her eyes suggested she might not keep that promise. Let's go hunting. As they left the speakeasy, the night air hit them like a slap, the Mississippi River's scent mingling with the city's decay. The shadows seemed to stretch longer, the clarinet's wail fading into a mournful cry. Julian felt the weight of the unknown pressing down on him, the ghosts of his past whispering louder than ever. New Orleans was a city of secrets, and they were about to uncover one that might cost them everything.